This one's quite lazy. So 2 or 3 bones only, this one.
I heard it, yeah. Bitterns are deep in the reeds.
So it sounds like, imagine you had a big milk bottle.
Yeah.
And you're blowing over the top of that milk
does,
bottle.
doesn't it? Yeah.
And that can carry like 4 or 5 kilometres. So
Really?
it's obviously sounding out for females.
In 1997, just 11 male bitterns boomed around the UK.
And so the RSPB and other organisations looked at this and thought we need to do something about this.
Over the past 30 years, this species has bounced back due to the creation of new reed beds. Here's Steve from the RSPB to tell us more.
Looks quite natural, doesn't it, this?
Yeah, but it's not, is
it's
it?
actually all, all created, yeah. It's all man-made, yeah. So this this kind of post-industrial, really. So this is a peat extraction area. So lots of this land has been peat extracted. Of course, you're left with these big holes in the ground afterwards.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
Bogs.
Yeah. So peat bogs. Yeah, years ago. Of course, then in sort of 17th century, people started to drain the land. The Dutch came over because they're the expert of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
To reclaim all this land, and then over time, obviously, the peat extraction started really kind of post-war. It kind of picked up sort of horticulture kind of thing.
Of course,
and so you left these massive holes in the ground, so 3 or 4 metres of peat's been taken out. And the RSPBs took these pieces of land on. So we now have, this year we've had 18 booming males, but just on Ham Wall alone.
Yeah.
And 1 sort of off the edge over here.
Yeah.
So 19 just in this area and across the whole of the marshes.
When they're normal, they're just crouched over with the beak, beak.
Yeah.
But then when they think they're being watched or they're alarmed, they kind of put the head up, look like a reed. And they've got great crested grebes. I just saw one.
We've seen one, beautiful, aren't they?
I was reading last night about it, and they almost became extinct, didn't they? Because they were killed for the feathers.
That's right. So really, the origins, of the RSPB is through that. Through some, it was women that got together. They were really appalled by what they were seeing in the sort of fashion industry.
For hats and stuff.
Grebe feathers, egret feathers, for hats and other attire. And they campaigned for it to be banned. Yeah. Successfully. And so that's how the RSPB really started. Yeah. Yeah, through campaigning.
What have you seen that's a good spot in this garden?
So an egret, a white egret.
Do you see a white
over
egret?
there? Yeah, on the pond.
Because it likes the pond.
Yeah. Only rarely, and a kingfisher.
Do you get?
Only twice.
No. I've only seen 2 in my life.
Yeah.
And you remember them. It's like they're like a bolt shot from nature's crossbow.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. They're such a show-stopping bird. My favourite.
Yeah.
They're my favourite. I've seen them twice. I remember both times. Once I was fishing for trout on the test, and I was just sort of contemplating why I could see these fish and they weren't biting. I was thinking, and I just sort of sat back, cheesed off. Well, actually, fun enough to have a sandwich. Yeah. And suddenly, just boom! Literally about that far above the water, just
totally still, and then just like a rocket into the.
And it really looked like
orange and.
God, man!
It's quite a sight, isn't it? Something that you always remember. Everybody remembers seeing a kingfisher if they've
ever seen one.
Yeah. Kingfishers are tiny flashes of colour along our rivers, bright blue on top and warm orange below. That brilliant blue isn't paint or pigment. It comes from the way the light bounces off the structure of their feathers. They're so still, and
no, they just
so they
flash,
must have something about
they
it.
just flash. Isn't it? It's like the Lambo of the. No, but it is. It's it's weird. They're so sudden and beautiful, and like always from out of the blue.
Yeah.
That you really do need processing time. You sort of to sink in.
I've just seen that. Yeah.
You think,
it is.
That was a kingfisher.
So you've been coming here for quite a long time, haven't you?
Yes, I've been visiting this part of the Somerset Levels for 50 years.
50 years, yeah.
You never know what's going to turn up next.
Yeah.
And I got a particular interest in birds of prey. That's my real big interest. Yeah. So I've been studying the marsh harriers here for 31 breeding seasons.
Really? Yeah.
And so I got all the data of every nest.
Have you?
And in that period, I've seen over 300 young fly from the
Have
nest
you?
area.
And where do they nest? Do they nest?
They
in
nest
the,
deep in the reed beds, yeah.
do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a marsh harrow flying left
Oh
now.
yeah. I've never seen one before.
That's a male. You can see the lovely grey back,
Yeah.
black primary tips and the brown back. See that? You see
yeah.
that there, yeah. It's about the size, a bit smaller than a buzzard. It's got this distinctive colouring. Oh, there we go, is it?
Is that it?
I think it is it? Was it? That's a cormorant, I think.
It's got like spiky
Yeah,
wings.
I think that's a cormorant.
Yeah. Spiky wing. How did you get into bird watching?
I've been bird watching virtually all my life. So my dad used to keep canaries in aviaries,
yeah.
and so I was brought up sort of looking at them.
Yeah.
So I was probably about 9 or 10 when I was more familiar. Unfortunately, he died when I was only 13. Then I had to take over the canaries.
Yeah.
So that interest kept going. And from then, I started just wandering up the local lanes and listening to birds. So I learnt before I had binoculars, and that was very important for me, where I could listen to songs. And so for me, it's a great solace to come out into
Yeah.
the natural world. I suppose I like. Well, it's not detective, but I like finding things out. I have an inquisitive mind, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
bird watching lends that to it.
Yeah, it
I
does,
don't
doesn't it?
just
Yeah.
tick and walk off. I want to know why
No.
that bird is living there.
And why? Yeah.
Yes, why?
What's it doing? Why is it? Yeah.
Why are they ignoring one place over there, but they'll settle here?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you only do that by watching and just taking your time and not rushing around.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you miss it if you didn't have that?
Definitely, yeah. The thing is, I'm always alert. So even if I'm out with non-bird watchers, I'm looking and scanning.
Yeah.
I can hear a call and I say, oh, there's probably a
Yeah.
bird of prey around because
Yeah.
there's a gull shouting over there and it's probably mobbing. It's usually a buzzard or a kite now. There
Yeah.
are more kites going over. How do you know that? I
Yeah.
said, well, it's just,
Like 50
I'm just
years,
tuned
yeah.
in. Yeah. It's just second nature to
Listening.
me, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
So that's
Yeah.
why, yeah.
Yeah.
I was working at the Natural History Unit, BBC at the time, and information was coming into the office saying, why isn't anybody screaming about this? This is, catastrophic declines everywhere. But I didn't understand the reasons.
Now, April the 21st is World Curlew Day, a moment to celebrate this much-loved wading bird and to face how much it's struggling. 2026 marks 10 years since its founder, Mary Colwell, walked 500 miles from Ireland's west coast to England's east coast to raise awareness of the endangered curlew.
And the idea was to talk to anybody who could tell me about curlews, whether that be a conservationist or a scientist or a farmer or a poet, bird watcher, anybody that I could talk to that felt they had some kind of connection to the curlew. And from that, I began to build up this picture, this both scientific, environmental and cultural picture of what curlews mean in this country. And out of that came the book Curlew Moon, and out of that then followed Curlew Action and the Curlew Recovery Partnership. And I think the book is where David comes in.
We've all got curlew ringtones. Well, I'm David Gray. I'm a singer-songwriter, a musician by trade, but since 2020, I've been heavily involved in curlew conservation, and I'm now the ambassador of Curlew Action, Mary Colwell's charity. It's always difficult to buy me a Christmas present. My daughter bought me Curlew Moon. I was a curlew enthusiast and a moon enthusiast, so how could this be a bad present? So she bought me this book, and I read the book just after Christmas. And it sort of disabused me of all my rather sort of romantic ideas that they were doing okay. And by the end of the book, I not only felt like I wanted to do something, but I felt like this was the cause that I'd been sort of waiting for.
The pinch point for curlews is they cannot fledge enough chicks. So once they get to adults, they survive really, really well, but they can't get their eggs and chicks to survive. So they're not replacing themselves. And the reason they're not doing that is the way we grow food. So the eggs and chicks get chopped up in grass cutting machines, or mown over by all kinds of machinery, or trampled on by if the stocking density is too high, or we plant trees across their breeding grounds, or we drain the ground so much it's too hard, or we put up infrastructure, or we walk our dogs across it. Everything we do happens on the ground, really. And therefore, curlews are completely at the whim of human activities. No one will die, no one will get ill, no one will lose their job if curlews go extinct. You can't argue it from a practical point of view. You can only argue it from an emotional, cultural heritage point of view. And so that's really, really important. It might not form a figure on the bottom line of a spreadsheet, but it will make us more human. And we really need everything to make us more human at the moment.
Because the truth is, the curlew is declining at such a scary rate, we can actually see the point where it's going to disappear. Across huge areas of the country, we can see that point. Wales, lowland England, we can see the disappearing moment arriving. The bird will be gone and the sound will be gone. As a breeding bird, it's actually all happening in real time.
If you love birdwatching, why not join the flock, our Get Birding Members Club? Enjoy exclusive content, latest birding news, ad-free episodes, and access to community chat rooms to share tips, spots, and more with birders around the world. Go to our website, getbird.ing.